Hello and welcome to Sensei's Dividing Talk number 3. We're moderately consistent. Once again,
got there.
I'm still Bobby, and once again I'm joined by DanK on the Wheel of Dans. I didn't sacrifice him.
Oh, thank you. I don't like being sacrificed, really.
What's your favourite 3-mana blue enchantment?
3-mana blue enchantment?
Yeah.
Copy enchantment?
To the internet.
Because it can be any enchantment, so long as it's already in play.
Why would you cheat out on me like that?
That's not cheating. You said 2 and a blue for an enchantment. Why choose one when you can have it all?
Greedy.
Yep. Well, you can't be greedy.
All greed all the time.
Exactly.
So there's a big thing I want to talk about today. To start with, anyway. We have to talk about standard.
We do.
Because if your enchantment is greedy, currently standard is not so greedy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we're in what? Week 2.5 of Guilds of Ravnica standard now?
Yeah, something like that.
We've had the mess around week where everyone just plays shash.
Yep.
And
as there is with every rotation.
Yeah, and we've had the week where, lists start to converge, people actually talk. We've got a primordial metagame. Oh, I love a primordial metagame. Yes.
That's a terrible term, and you say it awfully.
I've got some bad news for you, Dan.
Oh no, what's the bad news?
As a man who doesn't like mono red aggro,
Yeah,
mono red aggro's most of the meta. I say most; it's like 8%.
Now, when you say mono red aggro,
I mean
how?
I mean mono red aggro. So turns out, yeah, even though it all rotated, Chain Whirler and Lightning Strike are good cards.
Really?
Yeah.
How crazy that.
Like Fanatical Firebrand still exists, the little suicide monkey.
Oh, I'm very much aware.
We're now playing Gitu Lava Runner rather than like Bomat Boy. And did you know they printed another, red card that scales from early game to late game?
Yes, I am aware of him and his hilarious art.
Good old runaway Steam dickhead.
Oh, he's not a dickhead. He's a very lovable kiln.
Look at his art. He's flexing in that art.
Yeah, he's just like it's like an old-fashioned cartoon. His arms are spinning like 360. Like, you want some?
I asked you to name a blue enchantment earlier. There's a red enchantment in this.
It isn't.
Yeah.
Surely not.
Yeah. Did you know that if you put Future Sight in red, it's pretty good?
No way.
Yeah, so Experimental Frenzy, 3 in the red for the enchantment. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You can play the top card of your library. You can't play cards from your hand. 3 in a red, blow up your enchantment.
So it's not revealed. You can just look at any time. Okay. I like that change they've started to go for. We saw it on Vizier the Menagerie. It's quite cool. I mean, the fact that it's like you can just look at it any time. Like, midway through resolving a spell. Just have a look.
Sure, resolves. Like, in response to every counterspell, you just look at the top of your deck.
The thing is, it's not a response, though. You're just doing it.
You can look, yeah.
It's very weird.
Like, other men you've got are like 4 Viashi no Pyromancers.
Oh, the draft common.
The draft common, yeah.
Oh, I love it when standard converges upon draft chaff.
Yeah,
and the last I heard about standard was the Boros Angels deck. Not this.
We're going to get onto that afterwards.
All right.
4 Chain Whirler, a couple of birds.
Right, because Rekindling Phoenix didn't rotate.
Yeah, and then 4 Shock, 4 Lightning Strike, 4 Wizard's Lightning, 2 Risk Factor.
I guess it's not entirely surprising. It's just like when you lose those huge payoffs like Chandra, like Glorybringer, these really powerful cards. And you lose.
You're kind of left going, well, what's next?
Exactly. Like,
and it turns out that
powerful cards from a very optimized list by the point it rotated.
Yeah, it turns out that instead of Chandra, you can run Experimental Frenzy, and instead of Hazaret, you can run a 4-mana bird.
Right, yeah, Hazaret is the one I forgot.
Yeah.
The only god that ever probably made a very impactful.
Of the single color gods.
The single color gods, yes.
Because otherwise, I'm looking at you, Scarab God.
Oh yes, right, yeah, of course. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
that awful thing that happened.
He destroyer of formats.
But hey, he couldn't kill a rat. Well, he could, but the rat could kill him. So
turns out that if you staple flashback onto Browbeat, it becomes playable.
Really? I mean, it's not a flashback. It's like 33% of a flashback spell.
Like, risk factor's actually okay in this deck. Like, the average CMC is quite low. Like, all your cards are very impactful, so you don't
Yeah,
mind just
you're
drawing.
definitely a lot closer to the ground than these Chandra Hazaret
Yeah.
lists, you know.
Thing, and it says 4. You could just 4 them.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's very easy to just go, oh, I have no cards in hand, top deck a land, discard it, jumpstart, deal 4. Like, who's going to let you draw 3 cards in that situation?
Well, there was a couple of
Someone who's at
screenshots.
4 or less.
Yeah, there was a couple of screenshots I sent you where so I was playing the Boros Angels deck.
Yeah.
My opponent had an experimental frenzy out and jump started their risk factor. So I'm like, okay, mate, okay, you can
You draw those cards.
you
Yeah,
can, you can
that is
have
a
some
bit of a
cards.
non-bow. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously you can eventually sacrifice the
Yeah,
experimental
that's
frenzy.
the thing.
But
He had like 4 or 5 lands in play, so I was like, okay, you can take 2 turns off if you want. Do you want to take 2 entire turns off while I sit here and just like play Lyras?
it's kind of weird seeing all these cards that you'd have thought of as like janky red. Like you look at a card like experimental frenzy, and it looks like another one of those kind of cards. Like Vizier the Menagerie, whilst cool, didn't really make an impact. You look at this, you think, oh, it's Red's way of drawing cards because they're trying
Yeah.
to push that Red can draw cards, but in strange and interesting ways. And yet here we are with it being a playable card.
With every good like aggro deck, you need a mid-range deck to beat it up, right?
Yeah, you need format diversity to beat things up.
You need like just your powerful pile of mythics to beat it up on it.
Sure. All right. So what have you got for me, Bobby?
It's what I've been playing. It's the aforementioned Boros Angels.
Right. Okay. Now this I've heard a little bit about.
Yeah, I think you've mostly heard it from me kind of screaming at you at like 4 a.m. going, look at how bad their board state is.
Yeah, that, and when I go onto MTG Goldfish to check meta games for other formats, it automatically puts you on standard. So I see it, and then I go to the formats I care about. But
It's fine. This deck will die down in like a few weeks. It's going to be a role player, but hopefully it's a shell that can like flex and bend and can also be exploited for decent metagaming.
yeah. So what are some of the powerful mythics we're looking at here? What cards?
The first on our like mythic roll call, 4 Resplendent Archangel at 3-drop. Then you've got 3 Aurelias, 4 Lyras, an Ajani Adversary of Tyrants, 4 History of Benalia.
Oh, that's a good one.
You fill it out with playsets of Adanta Vanguard, Knight of Grace, Lightning Strike, 3 Deafening Clarions, 2 Conclave Tribunals, and 3 Shalais.
3 Shalais. Okay, that is quite a few angels.
Yeah,
I
so
can see why it's actually called Boros Angels.
your 2-drops both have very different roles. Like, you play them out in an order dependent on what land you see off your opponent.
Right. Yes.
Just if they play a black land, you just like spam out the Knight of Grace. Basically anything else in like a Danto Vanguard. Yeah, with like Lightning Strike and Clarion, you have ways to clean up. History of Benalia is a silly Grizzly Bears builder that also gives you knight value.
It's a strangely cohesive deck, given that Standard is currently comprised of 5 sets, only 2 of which are part of a block. It's a very, like, you'd think some of those cards came from the same set, but, we're looking Resplendent Angel from Core, looking Aurelia from Guilds, Lyra and History of Benalia, quite different cards that both came from Dominaria, Adanto Vanguard, Ixalan. Like, you're looking at, obviously that's Standard. You're comprising cards from all the sets to make the best thing, but it's quite a good list. Like you look at some lists, and it looks like, what is this jank? This doesn't look like that, and maybe that's because it's a mid-range deck. You are just playing the best cards.
Yeah, it's your classic pile of good cards.
Yeah, that's it. I really do like Deafening Clarion. It seems like a very cool card.
It's so much fun, I think.
The fact that a lot of your angels don't die to it as well is good.
I've told you about the fun I had against a burn player that had they had 2 Chain Whirlers in play and a Fanatical Firebrand. In play, I've got an Adanto Vanguard, 4 or 5 lands, and then there's a Deafening Clarion and some other mythics in hand.
Right.
So I activate Adanto Vanguard in my main phase,
Uh-huh.
pay the 4 life, give him Indestruct. My opponent doesn't kill it with their monkey in response.
I was about to say that seems like the logical play.
Yeah,
But...
they didn't go for it.
Right.
So I laugh, play Deafening Clarion for both modes.
Yeah, that's a huge misplay on your opponent's part.
Yeah. So
Like,
for the
I don't
low
see
cost,
a situation where you're not killing that, but
yeah, for the low cost of one life, I got to wrath their board and hit them for
well, oh right, yeah,
hit
'cause
them
you're
for
getting
3.
mine. Yeah.
Like, oh no, whatever will I do?
Mm. I
have
mean,
you have you ever played a spell that says 1 red blue, pay 1 life, wrath?
well, it's one red white, but
1 red white, same.
yeah,
It's the same color ish.
not quite. I mean,
Not in the
white
slightest.
is not notorious for drawing cards and being broken. I mean, clearly in this standard it isn't though. I mean, we've got all these red decks going around.
Steel Leaf Stompy is showing up a little bit as well, which is
Oh
nice.
right, with the new inclusion of Nullhide Ferox.
Yeah. So you're
Yeah.
like 4 elves, 4 pelt collector, 8 2-drops.
You still playing like Gigantosaurus and
No.
Golter? Do you still play Golter?
Yeah, you play like 3 Golters.
Yeah, I was gonna say Golter seems quite good in a deck where you play like 4 mana 6-drops.
But yeah, so you're just like mono green, apart from 3 Assassin's
Oh.
Trophy.
4 mana 6/6s. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, look how big these boys are.
Oh yeah, that's one way to get around it. I mean,
And
I
it's
think
like-
that deck probably loses to the life gain from Boros Angels, but
Yeah,
certainly, if it gets there quick enough.
all of the threats actually size up really well against the Boros Dex removal.
Right, yeah. But like, I meant like in the race situation, you know, you've
Yeah.
got a Nullhide Ferox in play. They have their Lyra. You know, you go and play your Steel Leaf. They play their Aurelia. You know,
Yeah.
they attack you for 10 lifelink or something. You know,
That's the thing, and like that's why you're playing the 3 Assassin's Trophy. Like your Assassin's
Right,
Trophies
yeah.
are your get out of jail free card in this set.
yeah. Assassin's Trophy. You know, just pulling its weight as everyone expected.
You also play 2 Vivian Reed.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, Vivian, I can barely even remember what she does, which for me is saying something because I
Okay.
tend to remember bad cards.
Yeah, Dan, remember back to episode 1?
Episode 1.
Yeah, what did we
Okay.
say about all planeswalkers?
Oh, the fact that they all have the same modes.
Yeah, she has the abilities.
Oh, so the +1 is a card advantage, or
Yep.
the plus something is a card advantage ability. The
Yep.
minus kills something, right? Yep, it's
Yep.
naturalize or creature with flying.
Yeah.
And the -8 is a ultimate that may or may not win the game.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that sounds playable.
Yeah, so Vivian is
I
your
take
card
it back.
Vivid is your card advantage engine and also Lyra killer.
Right, yes.
because
it does
conveniently she costs the same mana.
yeah, you just play a kill Lyra. Still have 2 loyalty on her. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like even
I
if you're on the play plus your Vivian, she goes
I'd
to
almost-
6. If they lightning strike your Vivian,
Yeah.
like in response, your Vivian's still on 3, so they can't make Lyra without it dying straight away.
It's definitely a good card that you can play on the play or the draw there. That seems perfectly fine, and it does make it a big problem for your opponent.
So yeah, we've played Garrux in that slot before that like have untapped
Yeah,
lands or
it
made
was just-
beasts and fought things. So
It's just an unexpected card to see come back. I mean, when I looked at the cycle of Planeswalkers for Core 19, Vivian is the one that slipped my mind. Like, I could probably tell you what the rest of them do off the top of my head, but Vivian I really couldn't. Not until I've got it in front of me like I do now. So, you know.
guess Vivian is the only Core Set 19 Planeswalker where I can tell you what it does. Oh, apart from Bolus.
Can you not tell me what Stark and Fireblood does?
Oh, he's 3 mana.
He is, in fact, 3 mana. Go on, Bobby. You can get there. What's his plus?
You make mana for dragons.
Yeah, in any combination. 2 mana.
The middle ability, is it card draw?
Okay, I'm going to stop you. 1, it was a trick. There is 2 pluses.
Oh,
Second, the middle ability is the add 2 mana. The first ability is you may discard a card if you do draw a card. And the -7 is create 4/5/5 red dragon creature tokens with flying. He starts at 3 loyalty.
why would you do this to me?
Because, you know, it was, what, 1 set ago?
And
I'm just saying, you know.
since that set, all I've done is cast Aurelia's and Pyrite Spellbomb.
So there must be someone playing cards like this on Arena. Surely.
Well, I think very briefly, Boros Dragons showed up.
Boros Dragons.
Yeah.
Boros Dragons. What?
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
dragons do we even have? We have the Elder Dragons and...
We've got
Like-
what Demanding Dragon.
I was going to say, we just lost Glorybringers, so like that makes me less inclined to play dragons. That was the dream, right? You'd play Stark and you'd get your mana, you'd go into like a big dragon.
Ah, here we go. We found it. Okay, so it says it's Boros, we're only in white for like Justice Strike. Which,
Justice Strike. Okay.
yeah, if Stompy starts to gain ground, this is the card for the Boros deck.
Right. So Justice Strike is the white-red instant target creature deals damage to itself equal to its power.
Except then your opponent makes a Brontodon, and you look at your Justice Strike and you go, well, Lightning Strike couldn't kill this anyway, so we'll just cry.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
We're just going to put like 2 Knights of Glory in front of it.
it still feels that same role where you can block with one thing, use this as well, and then
Yeah.
sort of you're down cards, but it gets rid of the card. I mean,
Yeah.
the feels bad is when you also have an artifact or enchantment in play, and then they're like sacrifice after you cast the Swift Strike. Oh no, they can do that as well. But
Our Sarkhan Fireblood deck is 4 Runaway Steam Matey,
of course,
4 Goblin Chain Whirler,
yeah,
4 Rekindling Phoenix.
really.
Yeah. 2 Verix Bladewing. We've got to a dragon!
Oh, Verix, of course. I forgot about him.
Yeah. So if you like Broodmate Dragon, you'll like Verix.
What, a 4-mana, 4/4 flyer?
Yeah. Or maybe
7 mana for 2 4/4 flyers.
there's Demanding Dragon. We've got 4 of those.
4, wow.
And
Okay,
then
right.
1 copy of Lathless Dragon Queen.
Right, yes, that was the monocolored rare legend from Core 19. Of course.
Yeah. It's a like 6 mana, 6/6 flyer. Whenever another non-token dragon enters, you get a 5/5 dragon. I still laugh at, at some point in testing, they will have not put non-token on this.
Yeah, and then someone
Like-
will play it and go, wait a second.
Wait a second. They just play a dragon and
Okay.
then ruin the game.
Behind the scenes at testing must be quite funny. I mean, like, going, wait a second, no, that's broken. I mean, that being said, they still missed it on things like Hostage Taker, because they obviously just assume, like, oh, why would you ever target itself with this?
For infinite ETBs.
Yeah, the point is, like, you do end up with some cards like that that just get under the radar. I mean, we saw it this set with Invert.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was another day one errata. Like,
Yeah,
It just happened.
they've admitted that was a communication error.
yeah,
With this card getting like passed around through so many departments.
yeah.
And
It's just some text that someone forgot to write on at some point.
yeah, they said like it was only when it was at printing we realised. So here's some errata. It's also
Yeah.
just not clear what the card does. It's like
It's
if
also
you
just not an immensely stellar card anyway.
yeah, it's like if creature A is a 1/2 and creature B is a 3/4 and you target them, like what creatures do you have?
It doesn't help that they missed out that text on a card that was already kind of complicated because of its wording.
Yeah.
It's just like a fault of English because if you read it, you could definitely take it in the way as both of the creatures targeted switch power and toughness with each
Yeah.
other, as opposed to switching their power and toughness individually. God, I love those day one erratas. How did we get onto Hostage Taker, Bobby?
From terrible errata. And you know what? Invent
Mm-hmm.
makes me think about how silly it would be on Tempest Jin, because he's apparently playable.
Tempest Gin?
Yeah.
Really? I mean, I guess, to be fair, when the cycle was first announced, people were looking at Tempest Gin more than Chain Whirler. So.
Yeah, because sometimes the Magic community is a bit dumb.
Yeah, I mean, it does look like a good card. Like, Chain Whirler, I mean, week 1 of Dominaria Standard was just like banalish Marshall decks. They all have some very good effects.
Yeah. So Dan, welcome to Mono Blue Flying Men in Standard.
I don't know if I'd play it, but it is
What?
cool.
Dan,
Mainly because I just don't really want. Like, if I'm playing Standard, it's like it has to be really fun for me to even consider.
are you trying to tell me Merfolk Trickster, Exclusion Mage, Sleep, Wizard's Retort are not fun cards?
I mean, oh right, Sleepers in the sideboard. But
Yeah.
they are fun cards, but I'm going to say that there is a stigma with Standard. Like, we're seeing it locally, it's not being played as much. It's hard to get into Standard. It's hard to stay into Standard. It's
Yeah.
expensive to stay into Standard. Like,
Okay,
It's-
so why not
like,
have a
that's
perfect
why-
budget list like this?
this is good, but like I don't know how well it will do. For one.
It's
And also, it
really
means
fun and
it
really
does mean
powerful.
buying a deck for events I will not go to because that we get one standard event every blue moon, and that's if it fires.
Just this is
Because
why Arena.
well, that's the thing. The reason today you and I are talking about standard, the reason why we actually know any of what we're talking about is because you're playing on Arena.
Yeah,
So
because I've been able to finish work and then like jam some silly cards at people. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
like
But
I'm like enjoying all this sweet tech.
so this is a cool deck. I think it looks really cool, but at the same time, it's not something I'm gonna invest the whatever it is like 20 pounds in, £30.
Boo!
Sorry, Bobby.
I'm so disappointed in you. This is like someone at Wizards
Oh.
has got a picture of you on their desk and is thinking
That's really disturbing.
that guy needs a standard.
Or I could just play other formats,
What, like modern,
Yeah.
mate? You know,
Except, I haven't played my modern deck yet. But it's not the point.
you will because don't worry.
Uh-huh.
So you're building Titan Shift.
Yep.
And I feel like with the correct build, Titan Shift is really good against Dredge.
Alright, okay. And why is it important to be good against Dredge, Bobby?
Well, because Dredge is back, baby.
Dredge is back.
Dredge.
Really?
Yeah, Dredge, with the help of some innocuous uncommon from Guilds of Ravnica and Creeping Chill,
I really wish I'd said it on air now.
is back.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Was it episode 1 or 1.5?
Who knows?
We briefly discussed this card. Like, it must have been like a minute or so when we were discussing some of the Ravnica spoilers, and we were like, "Oh, Creeping Chill.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll play it in Dredge." And then we were like, "Nah."
Nah, no one will do that. And it turns out, fuck, it's good.
It's Lightning Helix to a player. It's like Bump in the Night and Lightning Helix had a child, right?
Yeah.
But then also with Narcomoeba.
Yeah, except if you mill it, you can exile it, and then Creeping Chill deals each opponent 3 damage, and you gain 3 life. So it's not a cast.
Right.
It's just exile it.
Right.
Like,
yes.
It's
that's a good point.
putting Dredge further and further towards that point where it doesn't actually have to cast anything ever.
The problem I have with Narcomoeba is sometimes you draw it.
Yeah.
And like in Dredge, Dredge has this way of because of cathartic greeting, because of faithless living. Like obviously, ideally, you discard a Dredger, but that second card doesn't always have to have Dredge. It can be your Creeping Chill. It can be your Narcomoeba, those dead cards that you just can't cast, or that you don't want to cast.
Dredge has just got an extra, in theory, 12 damage out of nowhere.
Exactly. Like imagine you hit 2 of this off your Stinkweed Imp, and you're like, okay, so that's another 6 to you. I've gained 6.
Yeah.
Like we hit a prized amalgam in there somewhere. Right?
Like,
Let's go land, prized amalgam, Narcomoeba, Creeping Chill, land, Golgari Fug. Like, that's something that could happen.
Yeah.
Or, like, not Golgari Fug, like Conflagrate or something.
yeah, it's like Dredge is now
That's
playing...
not unreasonable.
No, Dredge is now playing less Dredgers than before as well. You're
Because it's just playing the better ones now, right?
You're only on 4 Imp, 1 Thug.
4 Imp, 1 Fug, 4 Life from the Loam.
Oh, yeah, and I forgot about Life from the Loam.
Yeah, no, you couldn't run a Dredge deck on that view, but, like, Life from the Loam's the weird Dredge card, right? Because
It fuels your Conflagrate.
Yeah,
That's
like,
why it's there.
the reason why Life from the Loam is the weird one out of all of the Dredge cards that I've seen played is that it's the good one. Now, Dredge has made all these cards good.
But Life from the Loam is it's the mid-range good one.
The one that you could cast and not feel bad about. Like it is in itself before the Dredge a pretty okay card, weirdly. Whereas like Golgari Fug, Stinkweed Imp, they're not cards C play.
No,
if you gave them another upside other than Dredge.
Yeah, so how often does a 1/2 flyer with Death Touch for 3
It never.
C
never.
play? However, if you staple draw 5 cards from the graveyard on it.
Exactly. But Life from the Loam is like one of the few that's like, well, because its Dredge number is quite small. You could be playing more Fugs here. Because it's Dredge 3 versus Dredge 4, right?
Yeah.
But it's just a better card. And that's why it has the 4 of in the deck, and it helps fuel those Conflagrate. It helps make sure you hit those land drops.
Yeah, it's the fact it's repeatable. So with your 4 Loam and the deck's gone back to playing 4 Shriekcourt now, you have more repeatable kind of on tap Dredges.
Yeah, I mean, like I miss Insolent Neonate, but I see why this change has happened. Like it is very because with less dredges, you're less likely to go the turn one neonate, discard a dredger, dredge back.
Yeah, it's like
Because that was the brutal play with the old dredge deck, which had Grave Troll, would be like turn one neonate, pass the turn, my turn, sacrifice it. Well, probably your end step. Sacrifice it, discard Grave Troll.
Yeah.
Go to my turn. Well, no, just draw 6 off of that dredge. Because that's in their end step. Then if you hit another dredger on your upkeep, you're dredging Sinkweed and Blitz there. That means by the time you've drawn your card on your second turn, if you're on the play, you've dredged 11.
Yeah, it's huge.
But like you can't really do that anymore because of obviously Grave Troll's gone.
Yeah.
So Shriek Horn means that it's more reliable to get the cards in there.
You'd much rather have some
You'd rather
some
be more
repeatability.
consistent.
Yeah, rather than just having one big vomit.
Exactly.
Modern's looking so fun now.
Oh, modern never look okay. Modern has its moments where it'll be like, oh, this deck looks a little too good or whatever. But for the most part, Modern is always fun. Like, you'd be hard pressed to find someone who doesn't look at a deck and go, oh, actually, I like that. Like, they may have concerns about price.
Yeah.
They may not like specific other decks in the format. Like, there might be a Jund player out there who really hates the fact that Mox Opal is still legal. Or, things like that.
No, they really hate the fact that Urza's Tower is still legal.
Oh, yeah, because, it's cool to hate on Tron players.
Well,
Don't worry, Tron players. I've got your back.
It is if you're Jund, you just can't beat it. Like...
Well, yeah, I've played against like green-black X decks with Tron. It's quite funny, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like Jund is now playing Assassin's Trophy.
Right.
You're playing them as a 3-off. It seems to be slowly but surely
it is
pushing
better.
Abrupt Decay out. You're on one or the other at the moment.
I think the thing is with Abrupt Decay can't deal with Tron.
No.
Assassin's Trophy can deal with Tron, but it also can still deal with these low-end threats.
Yeah.
Which just like at the moment makes it better.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I'm looking at a Jund list here on M2G Goldfish, and yeah, it's got 3 Assassin's Trophies. No Abrupt Decays.
No.
Because there is a blue-white control deck, but you're not. It's controlling in the way where it's not countering all your spells. It's just countering like a couple of them, and then playing like Terminuses and things like that.
It's countering the ones that can't Terminus or Jace away.
Exactly. Like it's countering like your ad nauseum, maybe.
Yeah, it's like I'm really excited for this format, even more than usual.
Unlike Standard, this is a format I can always get behind because it changes, but there's still some consistency to it. Like you're always going to find there are certain decks that exist in the format. Like they're always going to be there. Like Burn's always going to be there. How good it is changes. Like you can learn Modern.
Yeah,
really
quite
well.
Easily. Like it turns out that whilst Humans is still good.
Yeah, it's the third deck on Modern metagame now.
Now that the Humans deck is nailed in and the rest of the decks are kind of nailed in, the control decks were able to figure out what they were beating.
Yeah.
And so their burn was able to slant itself to undercut the control deck.
But we've still got some weird stuff going, because like here we are, like okay, top 6% of the mega. Now admittedly all these percentages like 3.6, like that's
really
how
healthy.
diverse. Yeah, but like looking at decks 5 and 6 here, Bant, Spirits, Hardened Scales.
Like 2 decks that I've repeatedly slammed as flavor of the month.
They are sort of flavor of the month, but at the same time, they're comprised of cards that have always been good in Modern. I mean, obviously Spirits has got some new ones that are a little weird, and like it's combining really powerful Modern staples with random other cards. I mean, like Humans and things like Titan, they just came out of like nowhere.
Yeah.
Like this format has been it's quite old now, and yet we're still finding random stuff appear, like Hollow One. I mean, like it'll take one printing of a new card, some really janky old card that nobody remembered, and you've got new things happening. The format's always changing, and that's why it's not nice. But like, if you invest in a deck, unless your deck literally gets banned like Pod and Twin, you're probably always going to have some game, even if it's not amazing. And Scapeshift is quite cheap now, that's why I'm building it. But it's not considered a good deck right now, I don't think.
It's not the right moment for it.
Exactly. But it could come back at some point.
However, it is still a powerful deck.
Yeah, like that's what Modern is.
If you're enjoying it and you know how to play it, your deck is never really truly irrelevant in Modern.
Look at this. Affinity, what for a long time considered like one of the bogeymen of the format, you know?
Yeah, with a very like stable 72.
Yeah,
Like
there's this scary,
your main
scary
deck, your main deck flex slots were: do you want to play Galvanic Blast or Thoughtcast?
Yeah,
And
so
then what are your numbers like on Master of Ethereum and Etch Champion?
yeah,
Like they were the flex slots. Oh, and maybe if you wanted a welding jar in the main. But it was
this deck is now 1.21% of the metagame. It's the 26th deck listed
yeah,
under the modern metagame.
because it's been
This deck,
overtaken by Hardened Scales Affinity.
and like Ironworks combo and things like that. Like it's below Scapeshift, Ad Nauseam, Azorius Spirits. Like it's down there with Infect at the moment. And this deck was considered, a really good deck for a very long
For
time.
most of the format. Even though like your supposed metagame percentages are low, all these decks are still powerful. I still don't really... I never feel comfortable like sitting down playing any deck and seeing my opponent like spaff out some Memnites and like a cranial plating on turn 1.
Yeah,
And I'm just like, okay, I've got one less removal spell than this, so fuck.
Green Red Tron disappeared like a year or two ago after the Eldrazi Menace, and here it is back again.
Yeah, people got a bit, excited on Jund, so Tron showed up. People got a bit excited on Humans, and it's a little bit mid-rangey, so Tron showed up.
Yeah.
People were playing Grixis Death Shadow, so you played some Eldrazi instead to keep up with the early boys.
Yeah.
Just played more threats.
Block the Gomag Anglers, things like that.
Yeah.
And like Reality Smasher against a deck that was trying to 1-for-1 you on removal was just...
It was bad.
Yeah, this format is just, it's a lot more exciting. Like, we did spend like 10 to 20 minutes talking about mono red aggro, Boros Angels, that kind of stuff in Standard, but it's not quite as exciting as this plethora of decks, to me anyway.
Today is the day. It's taken us, 3 hours of recording, but we've finally hit the positive episode.
With Modern is great.
With modern is great, modern is great, Vigilance flying.
The only bad point you can give to Modern is that it is expensive.
Yeah, and
like, we're how many Masters sets in now, and it's still expensive. It's not going to get cheap. Like, some decks, like Dredge is a bit cheaper now, like Storm has always been quite a cheap option, but you're still looking at things like Noble Hierarchs, Mox Opal, Engineered Explosives, Chalice of the Void, Fetch Lands. Like, there is a huge barrier to entry. And that's where I could see you might want to play Standard. Like that list you showed me earlier, that this mono blue flyers cost you £20, you show up at your local store and you play.
yeah, but
I can see the appeal in that. But
it's one of those where Modern typically isn't the on-ramp for players.
No.
It's, like the second or third format you get into. I played like some casual stuff, and then I played Standard, and I also played some EDH at the same time. And then I looked at my pile of fetch lands and shock lands and went, cool, I can play Grixis. And I picked up some Delver of Secrets and some Serum Visions and some Lightning Bolts and had a whale of a time.
I think the sad part is it's a lot harder to do that now. Like,
yeah.
Luckily, the Khan's fetch lands are still incredibly cheap.
Yeah,
like
they're still in living memory.
They still came. They came out like what 3-4 years ago now, though.
Yeah,
and they're still about £10 to £18 each.
Yeah,
that's very impressive considering we look at the other half of the fetch land cycle. A cycle that got reprinted Modern Masters 2017.
Yeah.
Scalding Tarn is already back, higher than it was before.
Yeah, it's because master sets being a low printing don't long-term affect the price.
Maybe that's a rant for another episode about master sets. But, Modern, it's always going to be expensive because the format is so good. People enjoy the format.
Yeah.
People will play the format.
It's a high-demand format because...
You can do so many things. Like, you look at these lists in the top 10. None of them work very similarly to you. You've got Burn, Blue-White Control, Humans, Mono-Green Tron, Bant Spirits, Hardened Scales, Jund, Hollow One, Grixis Death Shadow, Mardu Pyromancer Storm.
Yeah.
Like,
and you've got like a second control deck in Jeskai Control thrown in nearby as well.
Yeah, exactly. You can just...
It's like if
you show up with a pile of cards that may not be like a standardized list, you could probably still win some games if you know what you're doing and you're playing good cards.
Yeah, just I'm putting my flag down and saying if you enjoy doing anything in Magic, it has a Modern deck.
Yeah, there is a modern deck for you somewhere.
It's like, do you want to draw a load of cards? Yeah, cool. You can play one of the control decks, or Death Shadow, or Eggs.
So yeah, it's like my favorite format. My favorite deck in the format is humans. Like I really enjoy the interactions that have. I've never been a Vile person. Like I've never been like, oh, I love playing creature decks of Viles and things before. But humans just it clicks for me.
It just sits right. Like, mate, there's even more new tech in humans.
Is there now?
Yeah, people are trying out a spicy little brand new one a white and a red boy.
Tragic.
Yeah, mate.
What? Oh, I guess it makes sense.
So
and it has haste.
3 mana, 3/2 haste, mentor, prevent all non-combat damage that be dealt to other creatures you control, and you can pay some mana to give him first strike. It's like you make this lad like off your Vile, and your opponent can never like Anger of the Gods or Swattering Suns you again. It's like, oh no.
There is some really cool things going on modern. I mean, I'm gonna bookmark this point because at some point we are probably gonna have an episode about Masters sets. I think
Yes,
because this deck has 4 Aether Vial, 4 Cavern of Souls, 4 Horizon Canopy.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
Those are the barrier. Yeah, but that's the point. That's the problem though. All 3 of those cards I've just mentioned, like obviously Noble Hierarch is also in here, but those 3 playsets of cards I mentioned have all been printed within the last year.
Yeah, it's a one and a half.
It's probably looking. Yeah.
It's a $1,500 deck.
But that's what $700 right there in 12 cards, and that's cards that have all been printed
Recently.
This year. Well, like Iconic was November, December last year, but like within 12 months.
The cost of Modern and
that just shows you how popular it is because the demand is that high that you can have all these cards that have been printed so recently, and yet they just aren't.
Because people are clamoring for them.
Actually, I lie. Cavern of Souls hasn't been printed in the last year. That was Masters 2017, not Masters 25. I apologize. But Aether Vial and Horizon Canopy are still. They were both printed Iconic Masters.
Yeah, they're huge.
That might be because Iconic Masters wasn't all too popular, namely because it wasn't all that iconic. But
or Mastersy.
Yeah, I will rant about that at some point. Moving off topic, like modern's great, and that's what we've come to. Like we've talked about standard a bit today. We've talked about modern a bit today, and I think while standard has some cool things going on right now, like now is the time to get in and brew, do whatever you want in standard because we've only got 5 sets in the. Like this is the smallest standard will be for a while, and it's the longest.
Yeah, for the next year?
Yeah, it's like this is the longest point you have to rotation. Yeah. So if you're looking to buy in and play a deck, you can play it for half a year.
So when
you will get some value out of it.
When does standard rotate? Is it the set after the next core set?
It confuses me because they do this like four sets out, 1 set in thing, which is really absurd.
So I think we've got coming up, there's going to be Ravnica 2, Ravnica 3, core set, something else. And so on what something else we're going to lose?
When something else, whatever the test name for that set is, we will lose Ixalan, Rivals of Ixalan, Dominaria, Core 19. And your standard will be Guilds of the Ravnica block, the core set, and the new set.
Yeah.
So like now is the time to play standard if you want to play standard. Like it's new, it's fresh, it's exciting. Although my one thing would be do it on Arena.
Yeah.
Like unless you are a PPTQ grinder, it's very cheap to play on Arena. Bobby, you own Boros Angels. Imagine how much Boros Angels would cost you in paper.
Oh, it's about £400.
Exactly. But you're playing it for free? More or less?
Pretty much free. Like I had a bunch of wild cards from playing loads of Arena in the closed beta. And I put a bit of money in there as well. However,
it's nowhere near the cost.
Yeah, I would be well under rate for buying this deck from a dealer.
And like, it's also a little concerning because when that rotation does happen, you aren't going to look. Resplendent Angel will not keep its price.
No,
Aurelia will not keep her price. Runaway Steamkill will not keep its price. Like that's the problem with standard, and that's why it's a little bit scary to invest in. And I think Wizards are looking at this format and they're like, "How can we fix it? How can we fix it?" I'm like,
"You don't need to."
That's the problem. Like there isn't a good way to fix that because the problem is inherently cards cost money.
Yeah.
So people want the best value for money. The best value for money is to buy like a budget version of your favorite modern deck and slowly upgrade it, or get into a cheap modern deck like Storm.
Yeah. So it's like my mod collection is now ludicrous, I think we can say.
Hmm.
I think
I mean-
I own everything apart from humans and Jund, basically.
Yeah, but those are like the expensive decks,
Yeah.
like the really expensive
But
decks.
so you look at all the decks that I can play on a whim. So
it's 'cause a lot of the cards do have a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
You know, like if you own Vials, like our friend Pete, he's a Merfolk player, and he's also a Taxes player, and he's recently been sending us pictures of German spirits. You know, and I wouldn't have thought spirits was something that interested him, but he owns the Vials. He owns the mana base.
Yeah.
Like, you know, why not?
Just like-
you may as well do it.
just he's part of my GP team, and we were like, okay, well, we've got the hierarchs, the collected companies, the mana base.
You can just do it.
Pete, if you buy some spirits, if you spend 70 quid on this modern deck, we've got the other, 1,000.
The rest of it. Yeah.
We've got the other $1,000 worth of cards already.
Yeah, and that's the part we didn't bring up talking about modern. Is like if you get the staples, the format isn't actually as expensive as it looks at base value.
No.
Like if you invest in shocks at the moment, if you invest in like fetches, you can probably build a mana base out of that. Like
Definitely.
if you were to just go like Karn's fetches, shocks from guilds and alliances,
Yeah.
like that's quite a bit of money there. But if you get the ones you need,
So
like
I got into modern during Khan's Standard.
right,
So during Khan's Theros Standard, and having played during Ravnica, I had Shocklands. So I had these lying around, and I'd been playing during Innistrad, so I had some Delvers lying around.
Yep.
And so I played in the core set, so I had some young Pyromancers lying around.
Yeah.
So I looked at it, and like decks in modern at this time were Splinter Twin, Birthing Pod, Red White Blue Control, various Delver variants, and like Affinity and Storm.
right, yeah, because Delver is an archetype that sort of ceased to exist, but it's still there in control.
And so-
But yeah, gone.
In having Bloodstained Mires and Polluted Delvers from playing Standard, I didn't need to go and get Scalding Tarns immediately.
No, you can make that mana base work.
Yeah. So
Like there is a tiny edge on like playing random fetches because of like
Well, it
piffing
was the
me,
fact
but-
that a friend pointed out to me, Bobby, you have the mana base, like you have two
The shocks
you have two
stuff.
on color fetch lands, and you own at least one of each of the shocks. Play Grixis Delver. Like, so I had to go out and buy some Thought Scours, some Bolts, some Serum Visions, and some Remands.
Notably, Serum Visions was an actual card at the time.
Yeah.
It was expensive.
Okay, so-
it was like £10. But yeah,
Not quite.
it was a little under, but it wasn't cheap.
Yeah.
It isn't like it is today.
So I got to spend like relatively little money, and I had a budget version of this interesting modern deck. Over the next year or so, I put more and more into it. So a friend was able to sell me 2 Snapcaster Mages quite cheap.
Right, yeah.
So
That would be a hard one to get
Yeah.
nowadays. But,
I
yeah.
think I paid about 20 quid each for my first 2 Snapcasters.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was playing the deck just as the Treasure Cruise boom happened.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Watching that on air was like crazy.
So I was
These Delver variant.
crack my fetch, like Thought Scour myself, make a Monastery Swift Spear, like Treasure Cruise, and play like this
Yeah,
cool
'cause
aggro variant. And then Colligan's
that
Command
deck was
came out.
great. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then Tasiga came out.
Right. Oh, Tasiga came out before Colligan's Command.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I see what you mean.
So
Like, obviously, Treasure Cruise was banned by that
yeah,
point. But
so I had this progression, and it got to the point where I was looking at it, and I was having less and less fun with Delve because of one.
Oh, no.
Because of one big matchup.
I know where this is going.
Yeah, because I couldn't beat Tron.
Right.
And I found the mid-range decks were sometimes a little rough, and I looked at it, and upon standard rotation, I got rid of a bunch of Rotatos. I got my last 2 Snapcaster Mages,
Yeah.
some Cryptic Commands, fleshed out my Shocklands, and I moved into Grixis Control.
Yeah.
So
Now, was this before or after the unfortunate series of events that led you to Twin?
this is before. So this is Origins.
Right. Okay.
Battle for Zendikar is just about to come out. Battle for Zendikar is like 2 months away.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, get rid of my
Playing Grixis controls.
Get rid of my Rotatos. I've got Grixis Control for Modern. And then, so all I've had to do is buy, 10 cards?
Sure. Okay. Sounds about right.
And then, so I played Grixis for forever. I became known as the guy who was only ever playing Grixis.
Yep. And the one who would yell about his fugitive wizards.
Yep. But, like, my fugitive wizards never flipping is also why I moved into Control.
Yeah.
And then I went on a downturn with Control. Control just, It wasn't right. It couldn't win.
There were a lot of fast decks at the time.
Yeah, and
Like Infect was a thing at that point. I remember Affinity was very good.
Yeah.
You were looking at a lot of good aggro decks because they had to get in under Twin.
yeah, and so once again, I looked around and went, well, I'm only 10 cards different from playing Twin.
Yep.
So I bought the combo pieces I needed for Twin, played it for a week. It got banned. Went back to square one.
Oh, it never gets old hearing that though. Like
No.
the week before BNR. This is why you wait until after BNR to buy cards.
There was no hype on Twin at the moment. Like, everybody was worried about Mox Opal.
Yeah, I know, but still, just wait. Like, even if you think it's going to be no changes, just wait. So, just don't be a Bobby.
So
Don't spend £80 on a playset of Twin only for it to become £20.
still got those twins in my folder. One day, hashtag free twin. And so I've been able to repeat this natural progression of only a few cards different various times. So from buying an extra 10 to 15 cards, I've been able to play Jeskai, which, because I then had white-red stuff, I could then play Mardu as well. And because I had some more white-black stuff, I could play Esper.
Yeah.
Then I looked at the Scapeshift shell. So I picked up my Scapeshifts, my Valakuts, my ramp spells. Was able to play Scapeshift in my silly modern blue toolbox. Then we moved out of blue to finish Titan Shift, because I was like, well, I just need some Primeval Titans and some Summoners Pack.
Yeah, not hard.
I've been able to keep going and keep growing a collection. So the incredibly long, drawn-out point of this story is that modern pricing is an investment, and it's asking you to place a price on fun.
Yeah,
but
we're talking 4 years ago. Like that, you're talking about Delver. When you started building it, that was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
You still own all those cards.
Yes.
Well, you still play quite a few of those cards.
Yeah, I still own all of them.
You've never sold.
Yeah, I never got rid of the modern toolbox. It's only ever been standard stuff.
See, I on the other hand have sort of leapfrogged from deck to deck. Like at one point, I owned Rack, which is not really a deck, but it had ensnaring bridges in it, they were expensive enough that I traded those into cards, and then I played Tron for a while, and then I sold all of Tron. And I bought a lot of EDH cards, and then I sold those EDH cards and bought some vials. But started building Merfolk, sold that all, bought Storm. Decided I didn't like Storm, sold Storm. Now I have Titan. The point is, you can do what Bobby did, and you can slowly grow your collection playing decks that are similar to the deck you played. Or these cards hold their value. You can buy into a deck, and then you can go.
You can cash out.
You can cash out, exactly. In some cases, you can even make money. Although, don't try and do that unless you really know what you're doing. But because I didn't.
Yeah,
I sold my Khans at a point when nobody wanted to play Khan. I struggled to sell my Khans, and now Khan is really highly sought after.
You struggled to sell your Khan because everyone was struggling to sell Khan.
Exactly. But
you sold your Khans for the reason that it was hard to sell Khan.
Well, I just happened to fall out of love with the deck at the same time, which was the problem.
Oh.
But I mean, you play Tron for a year and a half. Eventually, you get bored of 1 + 1 + 1 = 7. So, but yeah, what my point is, you can also, if you have these big ticket cards, you can sell them on, buy into a different deck that you want to play, and that's what makes Modern great. Whereas if you tried to sell your Eidolon of Rebels as you got to rotation, or you tried to sell your Lyras, your History of Benalias, whatever cards that are expensive, your Teferis, although Teferi might hold his value a little bit.
I say, 3 of those 4 cards are modern playable.
Yeah, but they're not going to hold the same kind of value that a Khan is.
No, they're not.
Or because we're talking about modern staples that have been reprinted a couple of times that are still holding these values, and that is my problem with Standard, unfortunately.
The problem with modern is price. It's a slow build. The problem with Standard is rotation, because it ruins the price of your cards.
Yeah. But we've just discussed though that the downside of price in Modern isn't as huge as it looks at face value.
No,
you look at Monogram Tron and go, oh god, that's $800. But okay, admittedly, Tron is a weird one.
You look at where the cost is.
You couldn't just build a budget version of Tron. Not very well.
Yeah, you can.
Not without Khan is the real thing that makes that deck tick.
Cool, but if you're say a 16-year-old kid,
you can certainly play
who's got a part-time job, you can.
Well, I owned Tron at that point, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess you found your silliest colorless fatties on Madhouse.
No, I was actually playing proper Tron at that point. But that's what I'm saying though. Is I was age 15, 16 when I bought the entirety of Rack. like a lot of the pieces for Rack aren't that expensive. And I wasn't playing like Inquisitions and Fort Caesars. I was playing bad cards, but like it was fun, and the deck still won some games because people. This is back when Ensnaring Bridge was less of a big thing. People didn't know about it as much, and it was like, oh, how do I beat that? Now I still didn't win a whole lot, but it was fun. But Ensnaring Bridge had like a 30-40 pound price tag. Khan also had a 30-40 pound price tag. Once I traded those into Khans, the rest of the deck was quite easy to get. I had a friend who'd bought all the Tron lands but didn't really want them anymore, so I got those quite easy. It was just a case of like building the deck up over a couple months.
Yeah,
and that is something you can do. Like the point is, these intimidating prices aren't the be all end all of Modern.
Our Modern go-to guide is pick a style,
yeah.
Make some friends.
Yeah, making friends is good, especially if they can lend you cards.
Because they can lend you cards. They can maybe mates rates you something. They can.
There are some people who've been playing this game for a very long time, and they will have the card. Like they might have the 4 expensive cards you need to play that deck. And you might not buy the card off them, but you might just borrow it. But people are pretty happy to do that, so long as you don't damage their cards. Be careful with their cards.
Like, yeah, I've lent out what £1,500 scape shift lists to
you
like
also lent out
13, 14-year-old kids.
You've also lent out some very bad piles of 5-color awfulness to people and told them, yeah, it'll be great. So
there's nothing wrong with my like 4 and 5 color trade binder piles.
But yeah, there's also the format wide recommendation of just get into Burn, because Burn is something that's very easy to budget as well.
Yeah,
like the problem at the moment is like Goblin Guides, but you can play other things. Burn will always be Burn.
Every format has an on ramp. This format has many, which we're lucky thing is really lucky, and it's positive for the health. And I'd like to end on a positive note.
Yeah, I think ultimately what this episode has come down to is like Standard is looking kind of cool right now. If you want to play Standard, you play Standard. Yeah. We also wanted to say, Modern is a great format. Modern's looking really cool right now, and for us, we've got the Team Modern GP coming up, and that's something that's quite exciting for British players. And Modern is a great format. That's why it's very upsetting that Wizards are doing all this stuff to try and make Standard work when they've got this brilliant child who's just being ignored. It feels like a lot of the time, and they have done Modern Masters, but we'll get on to that another point because we want to end on a positive note, don't we, Bobby?
The positive note, and not that Magic is dying.
Magic is not dying.
Because it's not.
Because Modern exists, and that's why Magic isn't dead.
I don't have a poem for you this week that's to do with Magic dying.
Oh, you have something else?
Yeah, I've been sent in a poem.
You've been sent in a poem? Oh.
Yeah, I've been sent in a poem by our good friend Jess.
Okay. Oh, no.
So,
what is it?
Just, he's a bird, he's a plane, he's a buff Archon lad, he has flying and vigilance, it's Crond the Dawn-clad.
Thank you, Jess, for that insightful poem.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. We're actually, starting to feel like a real podcast. I've now put up the WordPress site, and pretty soon we should be available on all podcast apps and SoundCloud.
Yeah, it's like when we first did this, it was a bit of an experiment. We just wanted to see if we could do it. Now, we're going to try and get a bit better at it, try and go less on tangents, but we are still just talking about what we want to talk about, what we enjoy. And we have heard you. We know we need to get off of just YouTube because it would be a lot better if we're on things like SoundCloud.
So if you want to find us not on YouTube now, you can hit to senseisdiviningtalk.wordpress.com. So if you want to find us on SoundCloud, you can now find us on soundcloud.com/senseisdiviningtalk. We're going to be one polished boy, Dan.
Wow. We'll be on our way to being polished. We're still going to look back on this in a year or two and be like, oh God, we were awful. But, it's
a natural progression.
Exactly. And we'd like to thank you all for being with us on this journey.
This fantastic journey. And thank you for today, Dan.
All right. Thank you, Bobby.